What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today, I don't have just I have do. I have two amazing guests today at the same time. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I have up top there, or I actually have no idea where you're getting it up, but I have Mark Bruce and I have Duane Gibbs. Hello, fellas.
How's it going?
Hey, Gary. Good to see you.
Living the dream, Duane. I'm always living the dream. That's it. I just always am. It's just life is way too good.
How's that weather out in California today?
Oh, it's going to be rough. Yeah, it's going to be about 84. Perfect clear skies, nice and
Terrible.
warm. The palm trees are kind of moving around
I
a
don't
little
know how you
bit.
can stand it.
Well, we make it through the summer when it's 197, but
Uh,
actually we have a cabin up in a place called Big Bear Lake, which is
uh,
about 2 hours, literally from my door to my cabin is 2 hours. And we were just up there for the weekend. Now it was in the 50s, and then at night it got down in the 30s. Trees are changing colors. Ah,
Beautiful. That's the way it is
yeah.
here in North Carolina. Right now it is 64 in Carolina blue skies.
Ah, man. And Mark, where are you?
I'm in Maryland. I'm west of
Oh,
Baltimore a
that's
little bit,
right.
about 43 miles north of the White House.
That is right. You are close to my son. That's right. In
Right.
Clinton. That's
Yes.
right. I forgot about that. So cool, cool, cool. Well, fellas, I'm going to read your intro real quick and then we'll get cooking. So, everybody, today's guests are Mark Bruce and Duane Gibbs, co-founders of Huddle for Success. They help driven professionals and entrepreneurs feel stuck, break through barriers, and become visionary leaders. With decades of experience in business, coaching, and personal growth, Mark and Duane combine mindset strategies, practical tools, and accountability to help people achieve success with clarity and confidence in today's world. Mark and Duane are also the authors of the book Playbook for Life. So we want to get into Playbook for Life because I guess there's a couple different playbooks for life written by a few ancient folks, but we're going to get into your guys. So, guys, I haven't interviewed two people together for a long time, so I'm still going to do it. I'm still going
So
to
this is
ask
gonna be this will
the
be
what if you
fun.
could. Oh yeah, well I've got two
Yeah, a lot of
brilliant
fun.
minds here. But I'm going to start with Mark, and then I'm going to go with Duane. So, Mark, um, what is your what if you could?
Ooh, I've been so looking forward to this question because I do have a what if you could. It kind of stems out of our Huddle for Success mission statement, what we want to do. Um, I got motivated to be a coach by Think and Grow Rich, the book Napoleon Hill wrote, and I loved it. I read it before I started my business back in 1986 and um, a long time ago. But anyway, the book was written with the hopes that it be taught in schools and colleges. And when I started studying, when I started Huddle, well, before I started Huddle for Success, I wanted to, um, I wanted a fast track. So I joined a coaching program with Bob Proctor, who coached me, became a mentor of mine. And the more I learned from him, it's like, one of these days, I want to take Think and Grow Rich and Bob Proctor's You Were Born Rich and take it to the high school level and teach it in high school because our kids need to become independent, self-confident entrepreneurs. I think it will save our country if we could do that. So that's my what if. What if I could take this to the high school level and teach it to every kid? I mean, I think it would solve so many problems.
Love it.
Good luck following up with that one, Dwayne.
Yeah, and I will tell you, he and I
But,
talk about
but
it, and it is hard to compete with that. And I think that mine fall along the same line, but different. And you'll see what I mean. So for 30 years, I traveled around the world educating people of how to invest in real estate and how to change their mindset. And, that was what I did for 45, 48 weekends out of the year for a long time. And it was for a company. So I worked for two separate companies, 15 years for one, 15, 16 years for another company. But it was never. Listen, when you work for a company, you always have in the back of your mind, if this was mine, how would I do things differently? And so that's my what if I could. It- I would say the best answer is if we would have been able to start this business 5 years ago, because I got off the road about 6 years ago. And I think I mentioned to you, Gary, about moving my mom and dad from Florida up here to North Carolina with me, and took a step back from traveling and being in that business and really wanted to do something on my own. And so I've known Mark for about 12 years. And then when he introduced me to Bob Proctor over a year or so ago, that was really the first time that I sat up in my chair and realized that, I felt like all the years of training and what did that look like on paper? My head was a balloon. And when he introduced that to me, it popped the balloon and it just spewed out all kinds of how I would do things, how we needed to do it. And we just had a vision, and we really we compiled all of our stories and just on and on and on with Zoom calls and different acquisitions that we were doing, and just really created a great company of, as you said, combined of 70 years experience, and put it all together. And I wish that we would have been able to happen sooner. However, it didn't. Here we are. But that would be what if I could. I wish that we we would have been able to create this sooner.
I'm I'm older than both of you guys, and I'm kind of at a turning point. But some of the greatest achievements in history happened after the age of 60, 70 years old. So it's never too late to start.
Sure.
Um, there's so much there that I want to get into. I literally made my boys. I had the cassette version of Think and Grow Rich.
There you go.
And I loved how when it went from chapter to chapter, it had this weird like woo woo woo. It had this like weird. I can hear it in my head now, right? You know what I'm talking about, Mark, right? It's like
Yes.
that's like the weirdest. Like I don't even know what tune that is. Remember that? You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
And so,
Yeah.
and then because been in real estate for 35 years, I was exposed to Bob Proctor a long time ago because he was doing a lot of real estate training and sales training and stuff like that. You were born rich. Loved that one, man. Had it on
Yep.
cassette. I used to make my boys listen to it. Drove my wife insane. But Dwayne, what you said was, how would I do things differently? And my son's running into that now because both my boys, since I forced them to listen to stuff in their entire lives, have this growth mindset, and it's very challenging, and that's why you guys are so important today. It's very challenging to get people to. They don't have that thought, Dwayne. They don't have that. They're employees. They're cogs in a wheel. They feel the safety of being an employee, a worker, and they
Mhm.
just don't have that, right? I mean, don't you guys? Is that one of the challenges you
Well,
run into with your coaching, or are you meeting people that are past that bubble in their head?
I will tell you that children are taught that in our school systems, unfortunately, taught to be a cog in the wheel. And Dwayne's got a great story about, his dad and, how Dwayne wanted to be just like his dad. And go ahead, tell him your dad's story.
So as a junior in high school, I come home from school one day. My dad was sitting on the couch, and he was
What did
upset.
your dad? What did your dad do, Dwayne? What did he
Yeah,
do?
he was an accountant for Coca-Cola
Okay.
Company for 24 years, and corporate America always instilled in my sister and in my head of go work for a company 30 years, 40 hours a week, and everything will be okay. And as a junior coming home from high school, seeing him so upset because now everything's not okay. And the look on my mom's face when she come home knowing that what are we going to do really did something to me mentally, because as much as I wanted to be like him, I didn't want to end up in that situation. And so, I read something this morning about having more trade schools, have it more known in today's industry. And when I went to school, there was trade schools, so I would go one class in the morning, and then I would go to a trade school. And my trade was I was a mason by trade, and I got into masonry and construction. And then, you know, I had a friend of mine that had a masonry company, and I went to work for him as a senior in high school. Well, backing up a little bit, when my dad lost his job, I have a sister that's 11 years to my senior. She lived in Florida at the time. And so he and my mom packed up. They moved to Florida, wanted to start over. Time to move from Maryland, where I grew up. And he had to go start a new life. He had to go figure out what he was going to do. And he wound up with a good job. It was outside. They lived in Southwest Florida, so I played sports all my life. And he got into he was able to become a park and rec director where we lived. There was a yacht club and ball fields and things like that. So he was able to work outside, where he sat behind a desk for 20 some years with a suit and tie, and wanted the completely different opposite end of his career. And so I went to work for a friend of mine that had a construction company, and I would see at a young age how this guy was able to determine what he was worth and not have somebody dictate what he was worth. So he was able to bid the jobs. He had new trucks. I was 17 years old, becoming 18 years of age, living on my own at 18. When I was a senior in high school, I was living on my own. So I worked two jobs. I was able to go out and do construction in the morning. I sold shoes at nighttime in the mall. And so I missed 68 days of my senior year. And my guidance counselors knew my story, and came out to a job site and said, listen, you need to come to school the last 2 weeks of school so you can pass out. And that's why I stayed behind, because I wanted to graduate high school. I owed that to myself. And growing up and graduating in the mid early 80s, everybody was dropping out, and they were going to work. And that's what we were instilled in our head as young men and women, to go work. That's what we did. And so I bought my first car. My first car was a 69 Dodge Dart. And so I was thrilled, because I bought it myself. And so from there, I just learned. I surrounded myself by business owners, and at a young age, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Well, fast forwarding, when I turned 20, I moved to Florida, and when I moved to Florida, I got into real estate investing, and I got a book, and it said Hurdles and Pitfalls of Real Estate Investing. I read this book. I met the author of the book, and bought my first property from this guy that educated people on how to buy real estate with no money down. And so that was the start of my life back in 1989. And this really, I call it the first step of moving forward as entrepreneurship. And again, like what Mark said, as much as I wanted to be like my dad, I didn't want to have that mentality of scarcity of what am I going to do now? And so then, like I said, 30 years I traveled around the world, helping people of creating an entrepreneur mindset, or if they were in business and they enjoyed their career, how can you depend on, personal security versus Social Security. And what did that look like? And then just educated in real estate and educated in stock market and educated them in mindset and personal growth and on and on and on and on. And so I think that was really, as much as my dad didn't help me with that, he helped me immensely all the way through and helped me grow who I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, Mark, you started entrepreneur early also. I mean, you came
I,
flying out the gate with that. Was it when did you first pick up Think and Grow Rich, and that just put the fire under you to start that entrepreneurship and build what you built?
well, I first read it when I was in early college. My dad was a high school teacher, and then he became a principal. He was actually the vice principal of Duane's high school,
He was my principal.
strangely enough, and didn't know that. We kind of through conversation we came to learn that. But so
That is bizarre.
yes,
That is
yes, it's a small
crazy.
world. This is a really small world.
He caught
But
us out in the park a lot, cutting school, I'm sure, several times.
so
I'm sure of it.
so so anyway, he was a coach. He was a coach. He was a high school basketball coach. He coached baseball. He coached track. So I was kind of born with a coach. I've always had a coach my whole life. And he gave me the book. He said, you need to read this. And, Think and Grow Rich. Hey, I like to, I'd rather think than work and grow rich. So I read the book, when I was in college. Um, and bless him, he never
What
made
were
a
you in
ton of,
college? What did you go to college for?
to play basketball.
Oh, all right. So you were going to be a professional athlete, not a business person?
No, no, no,
Okay.
no, but um, I I played basketball all through high school. My junior and senior year, I transferred to DeMatha High School, which is in College Park, a very well-known high school basketball program. The coach that I played for is in the Naismith Hall of Fame. Adrian Dantley, uh, lots of very famous people played there. I was fortunate enough to, well, actually, one of my teammates was, when I was a junior, he was a senior. Mike Bray was the coach at Notre Dame for a while. Sidney Lowe and Derek Wittenberg went on to NC State. They were a year behind me. They went on to win an NCAA championship back in 1983 with NC State and Jimmy Valvano. You can still catch them on TV sometimes when they play the 30 for 30 things in March. Yeah, good. Actually, got a picture of them and Morgan on my book back here that I actually made the cover. I photobombed Coach and Sydney and Derek because I knew it was going to make the paper, so I photobombed them.
Well, then they got the Jimmy V Foundation is still out there. So
Yes,
yeah, Jimmy V was quite the character. He was
yes,
something else, boy.
yeah. So yeah, and
Yeah.
Derek's a character himself. He the end of the game, he he almost had the ball stolen from him. He turned around probably 45 feet from the basket and threw up a shot with like 3 seconds to go. And he said he said as it was a pass because it was an air ball. It was short, and Lorenzo Charles caught the ball in front of the rim and scored at the buzzer for them to win. So to this day, Derek swears it was a pass. Everybody knows it wasn't, but anyway. So I, when I went to DeMatha, we were our senior year. We were undefeated national champions. I I knew I probably wouldn't be a pro at that time, but I did want to go to college and play basketball in college. So I went to a small school in South Carolina. Ended up getting an economics degree from Wofford College. And when I came home, I've always been lucky. My first job was working for my grandfather. He had a corn stand out along the road. And when I was 12, 13, and 14, I'd help him plant the corn and go out and sit along the road and sell the corn. And my uncle, he worked for Armco Steel for 30 years, but he retired from there and bought a furniture store. So that was my second job. When I could drive, I went to work with him and worked in his furniture store. After that, my neighbor across the street opened a lawn care business and I cut grass for him during the summers of college. So everybody I knew had their own business. So it's like I really didn't have a chance to not have my own business. And Think and Grow Rich did play a big part of it. That and The Magic for Thinking Big, all the books and tapes, my cassette tapes for those young people out there. It's something that we used to listen to before there was the internet. But
Have
um,
you ever heard of Napoleon Hill's other manuscript that supposedly there's the theory that this thing was buried for 70 years because it was
Mm.
too controversial at the time to be released? And it's called Outwitting the Devil. Have you heard of that
I
book?
actually have a copy upstairs in my bedroom.
It's a if the story is true about
Yeah.
this book that he wrote this right after Think and Grow Rich, and it couldn't be revealed because it was too controversial for the time, and his he was sworn to never do it. He swore his wife the whole time she was alive to never have it published, and once she died, it was published. I've got it here too. I've gone through it a couple times. It's startling. If
I
he
did
did
not
write this in 1938, it's startling
I
what
did not know
he
the story.
exposed.
I didn't know the story behind it. I just I like Napoleon Hill, so I looked at all the books he had, and that was one of them. I was like, oh, that sounds like an interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wrote it right after Think and Grow Rich, and it was so controversial they said this will bury you. If you put this book out, you will lose everything you have. And he told his wife the same thing. So they just released it, and it is profound. You go, there's
Yes.
no way this guy wrote this. Must be some made up story because
Mm.
it's profound what he calls out in this book. And anyways, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So
That's
for
another
you
episode.
guys, the for you guys, the world um, the universe has been trying to put you guys together for a long time, hasn't it? You guys have kind of been in the same universe for a long time. So how did you finally come together and go, you know what? We're gonna do this together. It's time for us to join magic forces and create this.
Mark, go
Oh,
ahead.
oh, I was gonna say no. You tell the story because you came up with the name, and it's
So, so I met Mark. So I met Mark 12 years ago. He came to a class that we were doing in educating people on how to buy mortgage notes securitized by real estate. And so Mark and his partners came to the class, and that's when we started talking about where are you from, where are you from, where you went to school, where you went to school, and then that's how I realized that his dad was the vice principal of the high school I went to, and so we just stayed connected because of the love of sports. Maryland, being from Maryland, seafood, crabs, blue crabs, and so we always stayed connected. And I thought a lot of Mark. I felt like he was somebody that I could gravitate towards and learning from. You know, he's definitely a few years older than I am. And so, and so, you know
Ouch!
what?
Ouch! Wait a minute. What is
I,
definitely?
I
Wait a minute.
I got my Medicare card this year. I know, but hey,
No, he's not that much older, but he, it was somebody. Listen, it doesn't matter if somebody's younger or older. If I can learn from them, it doesn't matter. You know, everybody has a different level of experience. And so Mark was one that I felt, because we grew up from the same area, knowing what his mindset was, and because his mindset was completely different than mine. I didn't want to go to college. He did. I wanted to go off into the military because both sides, my mom and dad's side, long lineage of in the military, and I wanted to go, but I had bad vision. They wouldn't take me. And so, you know, completely different realms of the spectrum of how we grew up and what our mindset was, but yet how we aligned are very similar in our thought patterns of entrepreneurism and helping people and what we want to do. And so, as I mentioned earlier, when he introduced me to Thinking in the Results by Bob Proctor, and I sat up in it, and he said, "You have a look in your eye," and I said, "I do." I said, "This is what I was looking for the past couple of years of really being able to." Take 30 years of my knowledge and skill set and working with people and overcoming the objections and helping salespeople. I ran a sales force of 90 plus sales guys at one time. And so it was being able to collaborate and put all this together, I, he's like, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I was looking to do this on my own, but you're as smart as you are in by yourself. I mean, you can't gain much more knowledge. You can listen to podcasts, you can, listen to cassettes or CDs or 8 tracks or whatever it is you're listening to at that particular time. You can only gain so much knowledge. AI is a great tool. It helps you, but if you don't know the right questions to ask, you're not going to get the right answers. And so, with having the feeling about Mark of how I was, feeling like there was a big synergy and connection of our experience and knowledge, I said, I was coming up with the bullpen or the dugout because of us, again, being sports related, sports minded. And I was watching, I think it was the Super Bowl or the playoffs, and I see how halftime and they come out and they regrouped, and it was I forget what game it was, but the opposing team that was down came back. And how did they come back? They came back because it was halftime and they changed the outcome and they went in and talked and then thinking of they're on the sidelines, they're talking. Then the core people go in for the huddle. They execute, march down the field, get into the red zone, and now they call timeout again and they huddle back up for to execute a play and boom, pass, score, and then there's the ball game and they win it. So that was kind of my theory all along of we needed a dugout or a bullpen or whatever, and then the huddle just fit. I think he and I spoke about it and thought that everything that is sports related or what people go through on a day-to-day basis of having to reinvent themselves. That's what I had to do. Heck, I was in business, I did something for 30 years of the same thing and I needed to reinvent myself. And I think that's just how everything lined up for us and we ran with it.
I I used to motivate my friends and coaching clients and stuff that I had, or just even clients, like when I list their house and it's not getting the activity and they're a little down, like, hey, we need to get this house sold. I used to give them the John Belushi speech from Animal House,
Yeah.
did we quit after the Nazis bombed Pearl Harbor? No, it's
Mm.
one of the greatest rallying speeches of all time. Until until Tom Brady in the Super Bowl brought these guys back to beat the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, one of the most epic. I just get chills where one guy starts rattling his teammates' cages and getting in their face with "Let's go" to get
Absolutely.
these guys, and that was one of the most epic. Get on my back, and I'm gonna carry you guys to
I,
victory on this thing. So with you guys, when I saw Huddle for Success, I thought of that and the teamwork aspect of that. And so you guys are a team, but you bring two very not maybe not very different aspects, but you guys bring different approaches to what you guys are doing, don't you?
I think it's different experiences.
Yeah.
I've worked really not only in a group setting, but also one-on-one. And I really enjoyed the sitting across the table with someone and really figuring out what their pain point is and how to overcome a lot of their objections and give them that aha moment and then clearly being able to see something come across their face just like what Mark did with me. You know, Mark knew my experience, my training, and then when he was able to present me thinking into results that look like, man, this is it. I'm able to sit up on the end of my seat. And so I was able to do that for 30 years, but I wasn't able, as much as I did mind feed and listen to anybody and knew people, you know, Tony Robbins and, was on big stage with George Foreman and Joe Montana and all, we did some subcontracting work for a company called the Learning Annex way back in long time ago. and that was Trump's company that, his name on it, but yet they had Eric Estrada, and they had, like I said, George Foreman. They had all these people, and so have rubbed shoulders with these people and listen. But this was the first time that, again, it made me sit and think, this is relatable. This is relatable to my own life and how I was in the industry and I couldn't figure something out. And so I really took away from, I can still learn. I need to have the proper vehicle. And it was, even though it was there in front of me the whole time, I didn't see it until somebody else showed me. The light did not go off until somebody presented it to me in a different way than what I've have been exposed to for 30 years. And I think that was the real motivation, the catalyst that drove all this.
Yeah,
Well,
Dwayne.
Duane, Mark was, this old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
And so you were ready for Mark to show up with a 40-year-old cassette and
Yeah,
say, do you have a cassette player? No, we don't. Okay, but I want you to hear this guy, right,
that's right.
Mark? You came
That's right.
along and said that here's
Yep.
the teacher, the student is now ready.
Yep. But I've had lots of partnerships, and I know a lot of people say partnerships don't work. And don't get me wrong, there are challenges with partnerships. But I met Duane, and I had a partner in the note buying business, and that partner happened to come from one of my mastermind groups. We had been a mastermind. We'd been in a mastermind partnership for, I don't know, about 6 years before I had sold my company. She had sold her company. We came to, and we were both looking for something different. And that's when we ran across Duane, and he introduced us to the note buying business. And it just made sense to both of us. That company's still running today. It's got very nice passive income for both of us. And I could not be more grateful to Duane for introducing us to that and helping us build that company. The mastermind, I mentioned the mastermind because that's when when Duane said huddle for success, it's like, man, I've been part of a mastermind for a really long time. When I own my tanning salon, I own a chain of tanning salons that my wife and I started in 1986. Um, but in 1989, I went to a trade show and met some other guys across the country that had tanning salons, and we kind of created a bond. We we weren't a formal mastermind, but we would have mastermind meetings periodically through the year and share ideas. And in the tanning industry, the average tanning salon at the time was generating $150,000 in gross revenue, and that's pretty gross when it comes to revenue. But the group of us, we had we had salons that were doing over $1 million in revenue, and there weren't that many of those. And it was all kind of from the mastermind group. And that's why partnering with Duane's got a great training background. He's a great trainer. He's a good salesperson in that he can help somebody find out what they want to do and why they want to do it, and come up with a solution with them. Um, we make a really good partnership, I
Well,
think.
Dwayne kind of reminds me of Big Tom from Tommy Boy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he
Mm.
just kind of has that approach to him. Like, I'd rather you could stick your head up a bull's ass and find out about T-bone, but I'd rather talk to the butcher. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like that's just Dwayne just kind of has that feel about him with the sales, and then you have that kind of professor sort of attitude towards your Mark. So it's kind of like I could see how you guys can be so strong there. And yeah, partnerships are tough. I've had a couple that they've crashed and burned. Now I have a partnership with my son, which is easy because he's so much smarter than me and knows everything. So I just have to shut up, be quiet, and everything will
Well,
be fine. But we
I,
talked
I
about
think
Tom
at a
Ferry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We just talked about Tom Ferry a long when we
Oh,
first got together, and his father, Mike, was huge Earl Nightingale guy, had been friends with her, Earl Nightingale, knew her,
yeah,
and he got us into Mastermind 35 years ago. And anyone who doesn't believe in them, or they've kind of petered out, or doesn't seem to want to share their knowledge, someone might steal my stuff, right, is fooling themselves, right, Mark? I mean,
absolutely, absolutely.
masterminds are having a mastermind group is will exponentially grow your
Yes,
business.
absolutely.
It,
There are ideas that will come out of a mastermind you've never thought of in your life by yourself.
Yeah.
yeah, Tom, I follow Tom and he's a rock star in my eyes. He's over the top with knowledge. I know he learned a whole lot from the basis of his dad and and I always hoped at some point we would get to a place in our business to where we could have him on our podcast or just love to talk to him and bend his ear because I think he has so much to offer and again learn from. I love talking to people. As we all know, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody or talk about anything. And so it's just loving to talk to people that are way smarter than me because I found that when I had that over the years, I was always able to propel, make great money, tons of money, traveled all around the world, really was able to do things differently. And knowing friends back home, they're still doing what they were doing. Nothing wrong with that, but my plan was different only because I chose a different plan. Doesn't make me any better, doesn't make them better. It just means my plan was a different outcome and I wanted to be able to say, I wanted to be able to direct my own movie, so to say. And I think that was a big help. And I would tell my sales guys, ones that had a problem of selling or they just didn't have the passion, and I would explain that a salesman's job is to deliver bad news. And I was telling someone that the other day, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "A salesman's job is to deliver bad news." Why do people hate car dealerships? Because the salesman always comes out, tell them it's going to be this price. When they get to the F&I guy, it's a different price, and they're like, "That damn sales guy," And at the end of the day, a salesman's job is to deliver bad news. But unless you have enough product knowledge or enough knowledge of what you're mastering, that then becomes passion. So I would ask people, what's your passion? And people either have a woodworking business, or they have a decorating business, or they have grandkids. And to see someone that wants to do something different in their life but feel they're not a salesperson, ask somebody to talk about their grandkids. They'll go on for 45 minutes and you finally have to stop them and say, you have to have that type of passion for the business that means so much to you that can give you your end result. And so, I would tell anybody, your listeners, and anybody that I listen to, find that passion that you want. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you have an inkling and a feeling in your heart that, hey, this is something that I want to go do, anybody can go do it. Bob Proctor talks about the computer has been around for 1,000 years. The internet has been around 1,000 years, but it took an individual or a group of people that had the same passion to create and develop. That's all. The idea was there. It's just people didn't have the gumption or the passion to go do until it evolved. And but I love that saying, salesman's job is to deliver bad news, because we all know that's true.
I love it. Being in real estate for 35 years, I love that saying. I might have to use it. And I have a question for kind of both of you. Um, my son is like I said, both my boys just think way out the box. Their friends don't even want to talk to them because it's just like, yeah, can't we just talk about sports or something? Can't we just talk about something else? There always this growth mindset. And I think it was Jim Rome. I tell my son this statement all the time, but I just can't remember who it was. But I think it was Jim Rome who said, "You can't take ducks to Eagle School, right? You just can't take ducks to Eagle School." It might have been Jim. It could have been anybody. I listen to so many.
That
But
almost sounds like a Zig Ziglar to me.
Zig had them all, man.
He had a lot of good ones.
Zig had Zig had them all. I love him. I quote Zig Ziglar almost every
Yeah.
day. But when you're working with people, people contact you, say, "Hey, man, love your coaching, love your programs. I want to get involved with your programs." what do you find is it more challenging? Is it the old you can't teach a dog new tricks guy, or is it the new entrepreneur who you're wanting to instill the belief, or is it the older entrepreneur where you're just trying to instill some change or some growth? What do you run into nowadays where people are struggling the most with your with what you're doing?
Well, I think the biggest problem that most people have is fear. They're afraid to make the change. You know, they've done something their whole life. They are, you know, they've got a job, and yeah, we all experience it. I felt it. I mean, Bob Proctor even used to say, "It's like, you know, when I set my last goal, it's like I was like, gosh, I got plenty of money. Why do I really, you know, do I really want to work this hard?" But yes, if you know, if you can, we like to try and help people find out what it is, like Duane said, what it is that they truly want and why do they want it. Finding out why they want it is one of the biggest things that they need to do so that they can make a decision. So when the fear creeps in, they can have that vision of what they want to do and the desire to help them get through what Bob used to call the terror barrier, to get through the hard times and fight through so that you never quit.
You'd be surprised of how many people are fear of having success.
There is that too.
That they worry about, oh my gosh, if I suppose this does work, what's my next step? Could I just get lucky and do something right and it work? And what's that next talk off look like to where I could propel forward? And I would say the biggest thing that I have learned over the years, what people have a fear of is time. They worry about running out of time. They didn't plan. I'm running out of time, and how should I stay on the course that I'm at right now? And it's easy, and I can hit the easy button, and everything may be okay. But at the end of the day, there's several other roads that have come across their path that they never took, but they wanted to. And they never did because they were afraid of failing, they were afraid of succeeding, and they were also afraid of running out of time. And listen, we're not promised tomorrow.
No, no, we're not trying. You know, it just reminds me of the word juice. You know, people say, you know, you got to find that juice. You know, what gets you up in the morning? What makes you have that passion? And you know, you guys covered on so much there. Like that's one of Zig's. That's a Ziegler right there. Fear, false evidence appearing real. I mean, that was a Zig's from way back, right? You know, other
Yep,
people say, ah,
absolutely.
forget everything and run. You know,
Yeah.
uh, uh, have you know faith in everything and rise. I mean, there's a lot of things, but Zig's false evidence appearing real just is the one that's always stuck with me. You know, I've talked to so many people that this is my passion, being able to meet two guys like you, which I would never be able to have the ability to do because I can't afford you guys. But this is my passion, being able to do this. You know, finding your why, what gets you up in the morning. And I was taught, but it's also that fear of success. And I love to interview guys who come from the streets, come from the ghetto, worst parts of different communities, right? And they get out and they remember early, one of their biggest fears was, I'm gonna lose all my friends. You know, no one in this town, no one in this community wants to leave. No one wants to achieve. They're all happy where they are. If I gain success,
Yep.
I won't have friends and family. And so I'd rather just stay here where it's safer. And
It's the
it's a
old crab.
really amazing thing.
Yeah, it's the old crab pulling all the other crabs
Two
back to the
crabs
top.
in a bucket, man. One, I tell my boys all the time, one crab tries to get out, the other crab pulls them right down. But there's that weird fear of success that if you try to, you know, if you're gonna get out, you're gonna lose a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you just have to determine what's most important to you. You, I think we all have had a point in our life to had to look back and say, are these really friends or acquaintances? And how do they help me every single day? I can tell you I've had a lot of friends in the past, and I will say past, that they were really acquaintances where I thought that they were true friends. And, sometimes you have to leave that behind because your vision is completely different and you can't live for somebody else's vision or dream or what that is. That's why the beauty about life is we all have a choice. Every single person on this earth has a choice, and you have to determine your own success and what that choice looks like. Now, you having a family, if you're by yourself, well, that choice is probably a little bit easier. But if you have a family like you, Gary, family, kids, grandkids, you just had a new granddaughter come along, and so your choices, the more your kid, from when you being single, you and your wife, and then having kids, your choices shifted. Now having grandkids, and especially older in life, your choices are so much different now than they were when you first got married. You evolved. You wanted the best for your family. And just think, if you would have stayed in that same mindset, that same principle of life when you first got married versus where you are right now, it scares you to death to think about where I would have been versus where I'm at now, from the choices that I took to move forward, that was very important for my family and legacy for my grandkids.
Yeah. It's throughout life, the one thing about taking chances and sticking your neck out there is you get kicked in the nuts a lot. Life will kick you in the nuts. And riding high in April, shot down in May. And many of us have like the old catcher's yogi used to say, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. When sometimes we took the wrong fork in the road. Sometimes I went left when I should have gone right. Even if my gut was telling me screaming to go right, I went left, right? I mean, we've made those choices. So,
A
so
ton.
it's tough to be an entrepreneur. So, guys, when someone comes to you and they found Huddle for Success, or they've picked up the book Playbook for Life, and they go, I need these guys. I've hit a crossroads. Um, what do you do? They come into your program, you meet with them, Mark, Duane, whichever. I mean, where do you start with these people? Where do you take them with your Huddle for Success program?
Well, it's it's a 12-month program that we think of almost as a mastermind. It's a mastermind program is a big part of it. There are 12 lessons that Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher developed that simplify Think and Grow Rich, and they simplify the principle of that. And it all starts. Lesson number one is goal setting, and you know you sit down with the person, and first you got to help them figure out what it is that they want. And oddly enough, that's one of the harder things we work with people on. And I was amazed when I talk to people, and you ask them, okay, so what is it that you want to do? And they're like, well, I don't know. You don't know. But that's one of the first things that we have to do is we have to help them identify that. And then
You know,
we
I used to, because I started training with Mike Ferry 35 years ago, and then I moved on to Tom, like some did, some stayed with Mike. But, um, and I'd sit down when I started working in the coaching is you say, well, all right, this is very easy. Let's get the big yellow legal pad. Mike loves yellow legal pads, right? Get your pencil. All right, how much money do you want to make? I don't know. Well, just you got to give me a number because we're going to back this out, right? I'm going to tell you how many calls you got to make, how
Always
many people
back
you got to
into
make,
it. Yeah.
right? How many you got to back into that, right? You don't just go, I'm going to make $100,000 and know this is how you do it. You got to start way back, 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 back. It's going to take this many contacts to make this many this to get this many listings to get some missing. But so when you look at people and you just go,
it-
Well, you gotta you gotta have a
right.
goal. You gotta have. Why are you here? Why did you wake up this morning? Because if not, just go back to bed.
Right.
We maybe life isn't for you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
But
yeah,
Bob,
it's shocking, right, Mark? It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Bob used to say, if your goal is to make more money, well, you could walk down the street and find a penny and you've reached your goal. You got to be specific.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Specific, measurable goals. You have to have
Yes.
specific measurable goals. What is it? Who's it, Mike? Says
Smart
a
goals. That's it. You
a
read our
goal with a
book. Yeah.
what's that?
You read our book. We talk about smart goals,
There you go. Yeah, yeah. So
specific,
you meet with
measurable.
people
Yeah.
and you go, guys, this is a 12-month program. This is what we're going to take you through. But the first thing we have to do is you have to tell me what's your dream? What's your
Yeah.
passion? Why did you contact us? Why are you here? Why are you going to give us this dough, right? Why are we, we're going to 100 times your investment. So it's not about the money you're paying us, but we can't do it unless you tell us what the heck you want.
Yep.
listen, what really to see the look on their face when you tell them what is it that you want, but yet it can't be money. Because the first time they always say, I want money. I want money. Well, what is it that it can't be money? So what's that look like? And a lot of people can't describe what it is that they want. Well, I want more money so I can have better car. Or I want to, another house. I want to go on a vacation. That's easy. That's easy.
Yeah. That's why I like the name of your The name of your podcast is amazing.
It's awesome.
What if you could? I mean,
It's awesome.
it's a perfect answer. I mean, my LinkedIn, if you check me out on LinkedIn and Mark Bruce on LinkedIn, what if success was guaranteed? What would you do?
What would you do? What would you do? I interviewed a guy the other day called Paul Quinn, and he wrote a book called The Big Ask. You got to be careful with the K at the end because every time I say it, I thought big ass mama got junk in that trunk. But no, it was a big ask. And we got into it really deep because people think, oh, you just ask for something, it's super, super easy, not a big problem. But, when you ask yourself, at night at 3 in the morning when no one's around, your friends aren't going to pick on you, your wife's going to tell you you're stupid, and your kids are going to tell you, Dad, you're old. But when you're all alone at night and you ask yourself, what do I really want? What
Yeah.
do I really want? For me, I'm 62, right? And I write that down all the time. What am I going to do for the next 40 years? I got 40 years left. What am I going to do? What do I want? This can't be about money anymore, right? It has to be about purpose. It has to be getting up, having a purpose in life to get up to do.
Yep.
Yeah. We developed a scorecard that we measure their accountability. So when they come on board with us, we show them, we talk about career and business, we talk about spirituality, we talk about physical health, we talk about fitness, family, friends. So we have, I don't know, 15 different things that we go through from 0 to 10 that they have to rate. And then we go through this every quarter so they actually can see when we go through it again in the second quarter, they're able to visually see how they're climbing this ladder and the
Mm,
progression. And
mm,
so, when they measure all the way, they may be, we let them know listen, you're 35 or you're 65. It took you 35 or 65 years to get here. It's not going to happen in 3 months or 6 months. It's going to take some time. You can't create wealth overnight unless you just hit the Powerball or Lotto or something like that. That's really the only way, and the odds there are 20 gazillion to one. So I mean, the likelihood of somebody getting winning the Powerball, they have a better chance of getting struck by lightning. But as we all know, uh, we measure their success so they can visually see it in such a short time. And that's why it's so powerful and people succeed because they're able to visually see themselves succeeding on all different levels.
Gosh, I love that. I love that. We all used to do the wheel. You grade you 1 from 10 on the chart and the spokes and the wheel. And if your wheel isn't rolling properly, it's because one of these is out of balance and stuff. And then you finally
Yep.
say, dang it, I can't have 10 things in balance. All right, I just can't have 10 things perfect. I can't have 10 tens. It's just not going to work. So my wheel is going to go clunk, clunk, clunk through life because I'm sorry. It's difficult. However, so many people write that down, get their wheel, and never look at it again.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, Gary, how many people sit there and write all this down like a pros and a cons list? How many people really do it? We all know it. We've all done it once before. We all know the wheel method, but creating an accountability scorecard where you have two guys that we have failed a shitload, excuse my language, but we have failed a lot that has created our success. And listen, if I didn't fail, why would somebody want to work with me? Because, well, how are you going to get yourself out of a situation if you've never failed? We could share
Right.
all that. And so,
Yeah.
being able to have a measurable scorecard that they can visually see, people don't do it. They can do it. Why don't they do it? People can
Well,
wash
it's
their
coming. It's
car.
coming back to it too. It's coming back
Yep.
to it. It's like like Mike you say. Your 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 year plan is not a one-time thing. It's a working document. When you
Absolutely.
set out your goals and your plans and your visions for the year, you don't just do it and put it in the drawer, which much people do. It is a living, working document. You got to get that sucker out and be in it every day. And that's why I love your approach. It's like, all right, end of quarter one. Let's see where we've had movement. Where have you fallen back? Because maybe you went hard into this area to try to get improvement here, which cost you over here. That's perfectly normal. That's going to happen. You only have so much attention span. So now let's start equalizing. Let's find
Absolutely.
that. But also, I think what I love about what you're doing is that will also reveal what people are the most passionate about. You seem to really be focusing on this. I think we've kind of found what you're passionate about.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, talking about measuring your success, I mean, everybody can wash their own car. Why they go to a car wash and let somebody else do it? I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's because it's convenient or it's convenient not to do it today. Mark and I just did a segment on it's which is called a Huddle Up segment, and we do it every Wednesday and Friday. And we just did a segment on uh, um, um, putting off until tomorrow, putting off until tomorrow. What if, what if, what if? What's Bob say, Mark? About
You
putting
stumped. You stumped
about
me
putting off.
about
A
putting
what
off.
if?
I'm not sure what you're looking for.
I'm sure he said it a million times. Well, Dwayne, you know it because you're
Yeah. Tell
calling
tell
about
me.
it.
Remind me.
Well, I kind of lost it.
That's okay. Well, let's put it this way. When you guys are like me, right? I mean, we've gone through, I mean, you've probably focused a lot more on the Think and Grow Rich and the Bob Project, but when you listen to so many of these powerful people like Dwayne, you were reeling off the who's who, the Hall of Fame of, whether it's a Tony Robbins or some of these other people that we listen to. So some of them, I'll say something, I go, I could swear I remembered who said that, but I don't remember right now. But you can never get enough of that stuff. But I think
Yeah, no
one of the
question.
things that you said that hits me, that I find is the biggest challenge when I'm working with someone new to real estate, is say, guys, we live in an instant gratification society. It's just not a reality. All right. You know, these things take time, but you won't get from here to there if you do not have a plan. If you give up the moment you get kicked in the nuts that first time, or you get that first no, um, you're just not going to get there.
Yep.
No
Yeah. That's
question.
it's funny because people that are afraid of the no, I always used to tell them, look, do you think just pretend you're a waitress? You're a waitress and you're asking people if you want coffee. Do you get upset when they say no? Are you not going to ask the next person if they want coffee? I mean, you're just talking to people.
And it's also the automatic no. We know that in
Yeah,
sales. It's like the guy specifically walks into a suit store to buy a suit. He needs a suit for
right.
tonight or his wife's going to kill him. He walks in, the salesman walks up. Can I help you? No, I'm just looking.
No.
And the salesman goes home and he's sad because he didn't make a sale that day, right? The guy is gonna buy a suit. It's just the automatic no. You got to say, well, are you here for the special occasion? What
Yep.
colors are you looking for? You seem to find that one attractive. Why don't we try this one on? You can't. It's the automatic no. You got to move to the next question.
Yep.
Be a little bit more creative and say, well, lucky for you, things are free today, such as you can freely try this on. Kind of catches somebody off guard of, oh, that's kind of funny, or okay, yeah, I'm looking for this, and it breaks the ice. Too many people think in the box, and if you don't think outside the box in today's world, you're not going to evolve. Everything, just like you said, Gary, is so fast paced. I was talking about it the other day on the podcast about going into Lowe's and Lowe's Home Improvement, and they had Christmas, Halloween, and already Valentine's stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you bought Valentine's candy right now. How stale is that going to be for February? But, I mean, everything's so fast. So fast. I remember growing up, Mark and I were talking about this yesterday. Growing up as a little boy, nothing was open on Saturdays and Sundays. Nothing. Closed 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock at the mall, done until Monday. I mean, now you can get on Walmart and have it delivered in an hour. It's just everything self gratification, so fast paced. Everything's just evolving. It's crazy.
I have just a weird kind of question that kind of hit me from what you said. What did I haven't asked this before. I might start to put this in my thing. I might ask this to everybody. What did COVID expose for you guys? What did COVID do for you guys?
Well, we hadn't started yet. Um,
Mm,
we only formed Huddle for Success, but COVID is probably the reason that Huddle for Success came about. Um, I At the time I had my note business. I had commercial rental properties, I had residential rental properties, and I I was terrified that my tenants weren't going to be able to pay their rent, and my commercial tenants didn't pay their rent, and the note business were people paying their mortgages, and I was afraid they weren't going to be able to pay their rent. That's when I pulled out Think and Grow Rich again. That's when I pulled out Think and Grow Rich. I I I downloaded the Audible version. I listened to it 3 times. I I didn't remember from the first time I read it that you're supposed to read it 3 times and then go back to chapter 2 and start working it as a manual. So I was doing that and I was working it as a manual. And then I ran across Bob Proctor and he was doing a 5 day Zoom webinar. And so I was like, well, I've heard about Bob. I didn't know him real well. And and then he's like, he gets his copy of Think and Grow Rich, and it doesn't look new like this one. He had it rubber banded together and the pages were falling out. And he's like, I've been reading this copy of this book since 1962. It's like, ooh, I was born in 1960. That's a long time. And I was like, I bet you he can give me a shortcut. So, that took me to Bob Proctor and then got to talking with Duane, and, you know, everything just kind of evolved since then. But COVID was scary. It was a scary time
yeah.
for a little while.
What about you? What about you, Dwayne?
Um, I've always been face to face and computer. I did some computer online training, and I think that people were at a place in their life where they were so fear of the unknown, they didn't know what was going to happen. We never experienced anything like COVID before. We all see on the news of Israel and Hamas and everything being bombed and gone, but we never really experienced a complete shutdown like we did with COVID. And then you had to reinvent yourself. People were working from home more. People had to do everything by the internet, and they weren't face to face. I can tell you the seminar industry completely shut down because you couldn't have crowds. Heck, look at it. The biggest thing around the largest moneymaker in the NFL. They were playing football and with no fans. They were drawing out, cardboard cutouts and putting them in the stands. So I realized that being able to educate someone, listen, our business would never evolved if it wasn't for Zoom. Mark and I would never have been able to evolve this business. And we all knew Zoom. We just didn't use it as much as we do now. And and no kidding, Mark and I Zoom 4 to 6 hours a day, every single day. Saturday, we are on Zoom all the time. Um, thank goodness we don't have to pay per minute because it'd be out of control. But um, I really think people had to learn to evolve in what to do next, and they were scared. They could, if they had a question, they could get up and they could go to a cubicle down, or they could go into another department and ask their supervisor what to do. Now they have to think for themselves, but wait a minute, there's AI. And people are relying on AI to do so much thinking for them that now they become lazy and get further set back. Why someone that has 5,000 plus viewers on social media, why are people feeling more now alone than ever? It's a problem. Suicide rate is at an all-time high. So it's a people feel disconnected even though they're connected, if that makes sense. And it is a big problem with people don't go to groups anymore like they used to. They depend all on social media. And Mark and I, even though we do our training by social media, we have the expansion of our company looking to do private group events that we have people that are in our circle to where we can meet face to face, and we're able to go and do a 3-day retreat to where we're able to dig deeper and create some type of synergy and union of like-minded people to where now we could branch out and do this all over the country. I mean, so we're constantly evolving our business, and how can we help people besides just training them through Zoom? It becomes more of a cost effect reason. Number one, people can't, hey, I haven't done this before. I don't know if it's going to work for me or not. So being able to be on Zoom like we are now, it's effective. But being able to touch someone and spend 3 days with them and learn who they are, we can dig way deeper down the road. We can dig way into their passion. We can find out more about them. And it's kind of like aligning. You ever, and you have, Gary, and I know Mark has. Mark had a tanning business where he had a bunch of kids that checked people in, and then they went in and cleaned the tanning bed. We all have been in a position to where someone was at a position, but yet you really felt that wasn't the right position for him. We had to move him somewhere else because they were going to be better off at that position. Well, that's no different than our retreats that we're looking to do. So with spending 3 days, we may say, hey, your thought process over here is one way, but you've expressed a different characteristic of really who you are once we were able to meet with you for 3 days. And so I think I answered it in a long way for you, but I think that's what Zoom has done. COVID has done good and bad, but I think this did not hurt things on a business personal scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You guys touched on so many different things there. I'm not going to answer my own question for you guys. So, but I do know that,
Yeah.
Duane, what you said, you know, on Monday, September 9th, 2001, we brought in a new assistant, Terry. So my wife got her license. My wife was going to be the new buyer's agent, and Terry was going to be our assistant, right? Assistant. Harry, you suck as an assistant. Your paperwork is horrible. You're not detailed. You're a people person, right? April, you're phenomenal at detail, at being organized and things like this. So now I'm making an executive decision. Now, April was my wife. Terry was a real close friend. I said, April, you are now the assistant. And Terry, you are now the buyer's agent. And that took me
Yeah.
all of about 2 hours to realize that.
How did that go?
Well, that was 20 years ago. My wife now has passed away. She's no longer here. And Terry worked for us for about 15 years, and now she's a realtor on her own. But it was phenomenal. It was
Nice.
perfect. April was exactly what she needed to be. She ran the business, expanded into property management from real estate sales and listing, was manager, and Terry was a perfect buyer's agent. It would have been a crash and burn mission the other way, but it was one of those things where you have to be able to go, yeah, I could just be quiet and not piss off my wife and not piss off my friend and let this go. But it's like, no. And the next day, the whole world came to an end on 9/11 anyways. But you guys have been great with your time. I don't want to
Yeah.
take too much of your time, but there's so much that COVID did, but I just want to touch on what you guys energy and the energy of being physically with people in a group. When you get people in a group to do your mastermind group and you're able to get together and discuss ideas and question each other, you can't do that on Zoom. It's very, very difficult to do on Zoom. It's you guys getting your retreats together and doing stuff like that again is going to be very powerful. um, for that. So you guys have been great with your time. I know you're busy folks. I don't want to take up too much time. So, like I
Oh,
said,
this
I
is great.
lied.
This is great. No, this is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
I lied earlier. Well, I am going to answer my own question, and if you guys got it in a second, the thing that COVID exposed for me more than anything else was trust.
Mm, that's powerful.
Trust. I think people lost trust. Job, their government, their healthcare, their. I just feel trust was one of the biggest victims of COVID, more than people's health, more than people's anything, because you realize you couldn't your medical profession. People who divorced immediately because they realized they didn't like their spouse, and it's rebuilding the trust, finding a new trust parameter, a new trust, and it has to come down to yourself. You have to trust yourself above all and to make the right choices. And the first thing people could do is call Huddle for Success and get with Huddle for Success and say, guys, I need help. I
You
need
know,
help. I
you made a very important statement about trust, and I like that because 9/11 was horrific, horrific. And I was flying on 9/11, and like I said, I flew for umpteen years. The synergy and the way people came together in 9/11 was unlike anything you ever seen. You know, 3 years into it, even you'd be on a plane and you see something crazy, and you could make eye contact with someone that flew a lot. I mean, it was pretty obvious who's flying a lot. You're sitting up front and you see it, and it's kind of like there's a connection. When COVID happened, again, terrible thing, but everybody lost that trust, and now it seems we seem so divided, whether it's race or gender or whatever that is. Everybody's so divided. Nobody came together. No one has come together. It's I'm better than you. You're not as good as I am, and everybody wants to place that blame on somebody else. And you know what? We've had two horrific catastrophic events that happen in this world, and I don't understand why people can't look back and see that we made it through 9/11 and everything became better. But I just I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Duane, in my humble opinion, I'm going to answer my own question again. Uh, when you lose trust, you could either pick up your big boy pants and put them on and start making changes, or you can become a victim. And the
That's right.
majority of our country is people who make you a victim. I have these beliefs, and if you don't have them too, then you're bad. You
It's
have to
called
believe what I
entitlement.
believe, regardless of the entitlement, entitlement and victimhood. And you guys know this much better than me because you're both more successful than me, but you cannot achieve greatness by being a victim and believing entitlement. They
That's
just
right.
don't go together. It's impossible.
Yep. Self-confidence and self-reliance.
Yeah. Well, you guys are awesome. I tried to get out of there, but now I had to speak my mind because I can't shut up. So I had the what if you could question for you guys. I said I had one question, but I totally lied. I have two questions. My first question was a what if you could question, which I give you guys. The second question I never give anybody. So the second question for a belief that you have in your soul, in your DNA, in your fabric, something that's just super important to your beliefs. Um, what's that one thought that you'd love to share with us before we get out of here?
Can you repeat that? Because you cut out and I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
I missed
internet got unstable there for a minute. I think we've overpowered our synergy and our energy has overpowered the internet. Is
Hey,
that
that's good. That's good. Gary, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there you
Did
go.
we go away?
Yeah, you're season up. So can you repeat that again?
Yeah, I'll try it one more time, and if not, we'll just get out of here. So, last question. Is there a thought that you have you'd like to share with us before we sign off for the day?
the question I heard is, do we have a thought that's important to us that we want to share before we sign off? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Duane, you want to go first?
Got you're cutting out. I can't. I'm not getting it.
The Did I cut out
Mark,
too?
since you
Yeah,
heard it,
Mark cut out
why
too.
don't you go ahead and
What'd you say?
He asked if we had any thought that was deep and important to us that we wanted to share before we signed off.
Okay.
And um, my thought is that whatever you believe, whatever you think in your mind, you're right. And you need to remember that you are always right. And if you really want to succeed in life, all you have to do is change the way you think. It truly is that simple. Change what you think and what you believe, and you can change your life.
I would.
whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve.
Yes, Napoleon Hill, you are so right.
I would say, do not let someone dictate what you're worth. Don't let
Powerful,
somebody,
simple and powerful.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't let somebody dictate what you're worth or what your plan and what your goal is. If you have somebody that's constantly telling you that you can't do it, listen, I could spend another hour on my upbringing of great parents, great synergy, sister, all of that. But I'm talking about growing up in school, friends and families, aunts, uncles, cousins that tell me you'll never amount to anything. I could spend an hour on that. But I will say this: do not let anybody tell you that you can't do something. And we hear it from successful athletes, whether it's Tiger Woods, whether it's Michael Jordan, whether it's Kobe Bryant, no matter whom it is, they will all tell you succeed and live to your fullest every single day and you will achieve. And I would have to second, third, fourth, 20th, 100th that it's do what you feels right in your heart, because what you can measure is you can measure someone's ability or capability or non-ability to do something, but you can't measure their heart. Only they can measure their heart of what's inside all that.
Yep.
I love that, man. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And there's nothing better than watching a 19th round draft choice or a Tom Brady who's just way back there, the last guy picked, or Mr. and
Hey,
Mr. whatever they
look
call
at
the last person picked.
Mr. Irrelevant. Look at Mr. Irrelevant, you know? Look how far Brock
Purdy,
Purdy. Yeah,
Mr.
look at
Purdy.
Purdy. Look how far Purdy was. There's Mr. Irrelevant right there.
Unbelievable, right? Well, you guys are good. If you could hear me out there, either one of you guys, please do and give me, guys are so amazing. We could talk for hours, but I guess I lost my internet. Success, the book, where we can find you, what you guys have going on, any offerings you have. If you don't mind spending a minute, if you can hear me, to do that, because I could hear both you guys great. Please do that. Someone share the about you guys real quick.
Go ahead,
Good.
Wayne.
Oh,
The best and easiest place to find us is at huddleforsuccess.com. Huddleforsuccess.com. You can download a free copy of our ebook there, Playbook for Life. Talks a little bit about what we do. You've got contacts if you want to huddle up with one of us for 45 minutes. We'd be more than happy to see if we can help you figure out what your goal is. Book a call with us. No charge for that. Just we want to help as many people as we can. So huddleforsuccess.com is the best place to find us.
or you can send an email to info@huddleforsuccess.com.
Yep.
info@huddleforsuccess.com, and just say, hey, listen, I have this quick question. I heard you. I have a question about this, or can you tell me about that? And then we'll be glad to answer any emails, and always love to schedule a one-on-one free 45-minute consultation and kick some ideas around and try and help you with your own.
Yep.
I love it. You guys have been amazing. Everybody, I hope my internet's still hanging in there. But you guys, we've been exposed to some brilliance from Mark Bruce and Duane Gibbs, co-founders of Huddle for Success. You could tell these guys are legit. You could tell they walk the walk. They've been there up, down, sideways, and backwards. They can help you if you do want to achieve, if you do want to reach another level. You don't have to be the next Elon Musk, but you could be the best that you want to be. And that's really all that matters. And these guys will help you get there. And heck, if someone's going to give you something for free, I always said you take it. So if you can get a free download of, reach out and talk to these guys. So
Hey, Gary, we appreciate, hopefully you can still hear us.
yeah,
Appreciate your time. Thoroughly enjoyed being on your podcast. And,
Yes.
again, totally appreciate it. And thank you for your time. Congratulations on the new baby, and stay rocking at it.
you got it, brother. You got it, brother. Duane, Mark, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
We'll
Gary.
see you on the other side.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.